Max Olson, theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports, and he's here with us today. All right, Max, the college football playoff is going to be 12, but it might as well go ahead and just go straight to 16. Don't pass go. The EA Sports release is coming out. Players are getting that, and that's a big deal. Your thoughts about rushing to 14 or 16 before we even figure out if 12 is going to work?
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I always kind of felt like, the 12-team model was a pretty elegant solution for the variety of maybe not problems, but the variety of kind of things that the 14 posed that you feel like there's room to make improvement. I think the adjustment to a 5+7 makes sense with the, dissolution of the Pac-12. And, guys, I think it doesn't make a ton of sense to me to try to change the plan for 2 years down the road here when we've never played a 12 team and never seen all the benefits of, having these first round home games and things like that. I think it's very nakedly like, a lot of people worrying that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to ask for more than just one automatic bid. And I think they're going to have to get this thing figured out here in the next month. 14 to me seems dilutive. It doesn't really seem that additive to 12. But I think the real question here is, are there going to be concessions so that the SEC and the Big Ten can guarantee that they have more teams in this playoff as they continue to expand and add premium programs?
Max, I would assume that none of the other conferences want those two to have 4 each. And I don't think that the SEC really wants automatic qualifiers because I think Greg Sankey believes that there are years that he can get more than 4 teams. And if you give him a minimum, that's also going to be probably his maximum because you now have others that have to have minimums as well. What do you think that ultimately winds up at? Because I wouldn't say it would be 4, but do you think that they would say, you can have 3 and we'll take 2 in the other power conferences and group 5, you're still lucky to be here?
I think that the suspicion for years now has been like, if you ask Greg Sankey what he'd prefer, I'm guessing he would prefer a model where it's just all at large, where it's the top 12 teams in the rankings and, don't limit good teams from making the field. And, if you took that approach, then, more often than not, that's going to favor the SEC and the Big Ten, especially as we all know, committee members are going to give a ton of respect to the difficulty of the schedules in those 2 leagues going forward. But, because we've set up a system here where they want to still reward conference championships and make those matter, which is good. That's where you kind of have this, that's where the rub is. I mean, I think that, the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten are now in collaboration with each other is not a good thing for everybody else when it comes to these kinds of discussions. And so, it could be something extreme like asking for 4 in the hopes to settle in for 3 or something like that. And the question is kind of who's going to give ground on that. You could have the 4 Power 5 leagues say, we want more than one guaranteed bid. I mean, I think it's very interesting to see where those discussions continue. And clearly, when it comes to the agreement with ESPN, I think it's obvious that they need to really get this resolved here in the next few weeks.
Max, the video game is back. We've known that for a few months that it was on its way back, but now we're getting the official announcements. We've got all the schools today that are putting out the graphics and announcing that they're in the game, and we're getting more details along the way about the modes and just who all's involved and all of those types of things. All 134 programs confirmed today from the FBS will be in there. Just what's your excitement level? And I know you have an interest in this, of course, and a lot of us do, but what is your excitement level, and what do you, I guess, think about what you've heard so far when it comes to the game?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the 14-team playoff fight out there is important, but guys, this is literally the only thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, there you go.
The video game. I mean, I've loved the EA college football game forever. I was one of those guys who would go through and plug in the first and last name of players when they were just listed with their jersey numbers and stuff because I love the rosters and all that kind of stuff. So Still been playing that. The last game that they put out, the 2014 game, been playing that ever since. So couldn't be more excited for this game to come out this summer. And I think it's very exciting the way they've gone about this. I think it's a good thing they took the extra year to put it together. And to see, just in the last half hour here, to see guys like Quinn Ewers and Jalen Milroe and Quinshon Judkins come out and say, that they're going to be in the game. I think if you're a fan of any of these teams, that's got to be pretty thrilling. And if you love doing the dynasty mode and trying to build a program, stuff like that, the fact you're going to have real names and you're going to have 85-man rosters, just going to give a lot of realism to it. And I'm sure the anticipation is going to be crazy for us this summer when it does come, and expectations will be super, super high. But it's going to be great to have it back in our lives. And I think just what a cool thing for college football players. I know there's like some, this was a story a few months ago about like, oh man, is $500, $600 not going to be enough to pay these guys for their likeness? But the deal they struck in terms of giving them $600, giving them a copy of the game, I think that's a pretty sweet deal for all these college players out there. So hope that they opt in, and can't wait to see the game when it finally comes out.
Yeah, Max, I said this during the commercial break because I think it was Darren Heitner who brought up how long until Quinn Ewers, for example, or someone of that profile has an issue that he's making the same $600 that the third string guard at Penn State is making. It's like, well, I understand that there's that part, but Max, they're in a freaking video game. It's not like they're not getting anything out of this. They're in a video game. So it's like
they're in a video game, and this is a generation of kids that hasn't had the NCAA video game for the past decade, and has grown up playing Madden and playing 2K and playing FIFA. So it's a big deal to them to finally get to be in the game. And I think, believe me, I've been talking to college football players about this game for a long time. And I think you talk to most of them, they would have said, man, if you send me a copy of the game, that's all I want. So, to throw $600 on top, I think is, I'd be interested to see. Yeah, there's probably going to be some agents like him pushing guys to say, hey, hold out for more. And, I think that's probably going to be pretty unpopular with people, even if it makes sense in terms of the, you can understand the economics of it, obviously. But no, I'm with you. I think these guys want to be in the game, bottom line. And I'm glad that at a time when there's not collective bargaining and stuff, that they could figure out a group licensing plan for this that works.
I think it's going to be 600 hours per year while you're on a team. I think that might change the flow to the NFL. That 600 hours to be a part of a video game. That's from something, by the way, RX on the chat room. Thanks for bringing that up.
Also, Max, I've seen tweets from Open Doors today from athletes like Denzel Burke that he's, signed an NIL deal with them as well. So those are available as well. So yeah, there's lots out there. Yeah. So there are
Ewers, Judkins, also Milroe, and a young man from Michigan as well. That's a part of that group that I just sent to Garrett. That's what Max. In fact, that's your tweet of the players saying.
I think that I think they've done a good job today in terms of rolling out this stuff, and obviously getting 11,000 kids to opt into something is probably going to take a little bit of time here. But no, I think. I would expect that you're going to see the majority of players wanting to be in this game and wanting to collect an easy $600 for doing nothing.
Max, how with all the things that have changed in this TV deal that's not negotiated yet, they say that they need to get it done in a month. Do you see that happening, that they actually could get this done in a month, and then we see the 12-team playoff is just the stretch run?
In terms of figuring out this 14, 12, 16 situation, that I can't speak on in terms of what kind of timetable it takes to get on the same page about that. But I think that it's clear, and there's reporting this week in the Athletic from Andrew Marchand and my colleagues about look, ESPN is clearly tied to this for the long term. But I think if you're on their side of things, you're like, hey guys, get your act together here, get this figured out. Because I'm sure that they, these next 2 years we'll get to have this 12-year run. But, if you're going to try to lock in a very long-term TV contract on this that involves, billions a year, then, I think you're going to need some real clarity on this. And, it's been, obviously, you guys have talked about it plenty, but I mean, from the day the 12-team model dropped, it's obviously been kind of a frustrating process with a lot of delays and a lot of confusion over like, hey, why isn't it figured out yet? So seemed like the meetings this week were productive, and it's clear that they need to get some real clarity on this here by the end of the month.
Max, Kalen DeBoer's staff at Alabama is finalized. It was a little bit of a roller coaster there at various turns. It took a little while longer than maybe folks hoped for, but it's done now. I was curious your thoughts on what you see, and also I can't imagine Dave Aranda is the biggest Kalen DeBoer fan because he finally finalizes his staff, and then he's lost 3 assistant coaches, including 2 to Alabama in like the last 3 days. So on the one hand, thoughts on Alabama, and on the other hand, just what do you think for Dave Aranda and just the bad luck, I guess, that he has right now when it comes to just getting his staff finalized?
Yeah, I mean, those 2 hires, certainly a little bit of bad luck there for Baylor, just with the fact that, that Scott Huff, the offensive line coach from Washington, was going to go to Alabama, ends up going with Ryan Grubb to the Seattle Seahawks, so that creates that opening. Same thing with, they thought it seemed like a Washington assistant was going to go take that linebacker's job at Alabama. He ends up going to Tennessee instead, and so that creates those openings, and that cost Baylor. And guys, I was looking at it too. I mean, I think if you're in Dave Aranda's spot, and look, congrats to Dennis Johnson too. Obviously, that opportunity with the Ravens is super impressive. But man, if it were me, I'd probably be like, and I know they've already filled the line, but like I'd probably be like, hey, we need to push Springwell back a little bit here. Like that was not the plan. You know what I mean? So yeah, pretty surprising to see that hit. A month out from spring practice and starting. But, I think the Kalen DeBoer staff is super interesting. And usually, especially when you have a staff that just played in a national championship game, you would think Kalen DeBoer is bringing everybody with him to Tuscaloosa. And that's ultimately not going to be the case here. He's brought Nick Sheridan, promoted him to offensive coordinator to replace Grubb. He brought Demarcus Shepard, who did an excellent job, obviously, with Washington's wide receivers. But the rest of the staff, he's kind of put together from scratch here a little bit. And, I think Kane Womack coming as DC from South Alabama, his head coaching post, is impressive. And I think they've got some pretty good hires for the staff. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this group gels together in such a high-profile spot here when they haven't, maybe not all these guys have worked together before. And, certainly can you go compete with Georgia and everybody you got to compete with in recruiting in the SEC? Very interested to see Kalen DeBoer get it right in terms of constructing a staff with a lot of new faces.
Here is another thing about EA Sports. So it was announced the broadcasters have been selected to be a part of it. Paul, look who's on the cover and the helmet behind Kirk Herbstreit.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's not going to be it, but I'm fine. Look, I'm fine. I'm not mad at him anymore. He did what he was told to do by the corporate overlords. It's a picture of a Florida
State helmet, Max. But we'll get to the other one, Garrett, in just a moment. Max, on the Dave Aranda losing coaches, obviously he had a pretty damn good staff. 1 to the NFL, 2 to Alabama. How much do you think if he was even more on solid ground, no matter what is said about him being on solid ground, we know what's going on, how much do you think that came into play, if at all?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think that all 3 of those guys, I'm sure, got pretty healthy raises to make those moves. But, let's be honest. Like, I think that, the timing's not great for this. And you might think, like, okay, let's just go internal promotions and kind of hold things together here. But I think probably for Dave Aranda, that's probably not the right approach for 24 with, obviously, like, the pressure you're going to be under here to really get things turned around here. So interested to see what kind of moves he can make to fill out this staff. And, obviously, everything you do now, there's a little bit of a portal factor, right? Of like, can you make some good hires that kind of give the players in those position rooms some confidence about moving forward here? Because all these coaches, are going to continue to kind of live in fear of that April portal window, and you don't want to be picked apart just because of changes on your staff and stuff like that. So important to get those hires right, and I think especially offensive line, it's just such an important, spot that you hope you got a great coach and developer and stuff like that. So, I think the guy they hired, I think that the Leach ties there makes a lot of sense for Jake Babineau, but It's definitely unfortunate timing. It's just been kind of a weird cycle, guys, with how many of these coaching changes happened, after the national championship game.
Max, go enjoy the release of the game here just around the corner. Enjoy. Thanks for the
Gonna go
segment.
fire
We
up the
appreciate
Xbox.
it. Yep, there you go.
Thanks, guys.
That's Max Olson, theathletic.com. So here's a response.